This video is about Star Trek Lower Decks. We'll be talking about that in just a moment. We have a premiere date on it. But before that, if you'll permit me, I'd like to say a word or two about an old friend of mine who passed away this week. His name was David. I knew him for better than 30 years, worked with him for almost 10, and he became a close friend, a confidant. He stood up for me in my wedding and was a kind-hearted individual, had a great sense of humor, was ready to laugh at a lot of things, including himself, and had a very positive outlook on life that even when adversity hit him, which a lot of it did in the latter part of his life, he was able to take cheerfully. And I will always remember him and that attitude. I hope to be able to stand up to a 10th as much as he did and take it with such dignity. I only say this not because he's just my friend, but he's one of the first people who I've known that long who is younger than me to pass away. Now, by the time you get to be at my age, stuff like that is going to happen. I'm certain some of you can identify with that. When people you've known for a long time are 10 or 20 years older than you are, you say, "Well, I miss them. They were wonderful people. I learned a lot from them. They mentored me." And that certainly has happened in my case. Relatives, parents, things like that we have to deal with. It's somewhat different when you have a close friend, someone who's younger than you. Not that I have a feeling of doom of any sort, of shortness of life of any sort. I still don't think that it's my time quite yet. But I was hit rather bluntly by this news, even though he was in poor health. And I hope that his family is comforted in knowing what kind of fellow he was and how he lived his life. We could all learn something from that. Hello out there, I'm the Oldest Nerd, and today Lower Decks. Lower Decks is the cartoon series that is made for a grown-up audience by the producers of Star Trek at CBS All Access. And this is basically a cartooning of B stories that you would see sometimes in the Next Generation shows. They had two plots. They would have their main plot where they're going to save a civilization or deal with a belligerent alien or something like that. And then there was usually a B story. It was usually a lighter story of something else that was going on, a poker game, a play, something that was being done in the off time of officers. And in this particular show called Lower Decks, we focus on junior officers and how they try to advance themselves into more notoriety with the ship's commanders and senior staff. And it's done as a comedy, but it is not juvenile, not that it has been advertised anyway, and that it will appeal to an audience that otherwise likes Star Trek. It keeps all of the Star Trek ideals. It doesn't make fun of the Federation. It doesn't make fun of Starfleet. It basically takes human foibles, things that we've all been through, and goes with it. And so that is the nature of Below Decks. Now, there are a number of characters, and we'll talk about that later when the show premieres, and we can isolate the characters and talk to you about them. But for now, the big news that's come out of the things I've been reading is that it's going to premiere on August 3rd. So August 3rd, we will finally have a new episode of Star Trek of some sort. Now, these are half-hour cartoons. They are made, as I said, for a non-child audience, and therefore, while the animation is a two-dimensional animation, kind of the old style, done by the same people who brought you Rick and Morty, it has the skill by which to make an animated cartoon that appeals to a general audience, and they have enough love of Star Trek to make it a worthy addition to the canon. So this all happens during the time of The Next Generation. The ship that CBS has put a picture up of has some elements that will remind you of the Enterprise D, and it's in that era. So if that sounds good to you, I hope that you'll be watching it on August 3rd. It is on CBS All Access, and we'll be talking about it in this space as well. In the meantime, if you are in the United States, happy Independence Day, and be careful out there. Don't go far.